Hello and welcome. My guest today is the author of The Coparazzi. His name is Vincent Casale, right here from Long Island. In 1989, working for the NYPD, he was transferred into the dream position of his life, working for the filmmaking unit of the NYPD. Vincent, welcome aboard today. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Jason. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. So, interesting book, The Coparazzi. So tell us about this book.
Well, The Coparazzi is basically, it was the film unit was designed to assist and protect the motion picture industry and television industries when they film on the streets of New York. As you well know, there are crowds, there is traffic, and all of this
On a daily basis.
On a daily basis, even more so now with all the television shows being produced in New York.
Yeah.
And our job was just basically to keep the peace and to keep the flow of traffic going. But the police officers in the unit's job or private job was to garnish as many photos and autographs as we could, which was not, it was against the rules, but that's what our main goal was.
Right. And you actually started off just as an NYPD officer.
I was a patrolman for 3 years when I heard of this lucrative assignment. And like any other job in any industry, you had to know someone. So I made as many phone calls as I could. And it actually took me 3 years to finally land the position because there's only 18 police officers in the unit.
Huh,
at the time.
Wow. So I'm sure you've seen some amazing actors cross the streets of New York, which we'll get to, but you were actually born and raised in East Harlem, New York.
I was born in East Harlem, New York. Then we moved to Queens, and I was raised in Queens, in Flushing, Queens. In 1984, I became a police officer. In 1983, I took the test and was called a year later.
And you were actually the first member of your family to
First
join
and
the
only
NYPD.
member. And it doesn't look like anyone will be following in my footsteps soon. So probably the only member of my family for a time to come.
So what made you want to join the NYPD?
Well, I wasn't a very handy person. So I drove a cab, I bartended. They weren't jobs that really had a great future. So a lot of people in my neighborhood at the time were taking civil service tests. And one of my friends approached me and said, take the police test. And so a few of us did, and we all passed, actually. One decided not to, but the other two of us did.
Huh, interesting. And then just a couple years later, after doing patrols, you got called to be part of the movie unit.
Yes.
What was your reaction to that?
My reaction was over the moon, because I didn't even know there was such a unit, because originally when they started that unit in the 60s, it was part of the Tactical Patrol Force unit. And then they created the title Movie TV unit. And so, again, when I heard about it, every time I opened the newspapers, there would be pictures of movie stars, and once in a while you would see the police that worked on the sets in the background. And I just waited and hoped and called, and then finally I was transferred in 1989 to the unit.
Huh, interesting.
With great excitement.
So were you always a big movie fanatic?
Oh, that's the reason why I wanted the unit. I was not only a huge movie fanatic, I wanted to be an actor when I was young. And in my neighborhood, you were union workers or laborers. There weren't many people that came out of my neighborhood that were actors or singers or artists. So I actually, after high school, studied at the HB Studios for a little while, where Steve McQueen, Robert De Niro, and the like had studied. It's down on Bank Street in Greenwich Village. And then as I saw that it was something you really, really had to be passionate about, and there was no money in it. So I did the neighborhood thing then and just went and got a regular job.
Right. So how come you never really wanted to pursue acting any further?
Well, I think because the dream was more exciting than the actual pursuit, because of the effort. Not that I was so lazy, but again, I had no college, so basically you had to get a job. And then eventually, like I said, joining the police department is also the greatest show on earth next to entertainment. So to be able to combine them eventually was really a dream come true.
Wow, and I'm sure you've seen some pretty big name actors as well.
I got to meet and see some of the most famous actors of the time that are still very famous, but at that time they were my favorites. I grew up on them. Al Pacino, Robert De Niro.
Yes, classic movie stars.
Yeah, those are classic movie stars. I also got to see some of the last of the old-timers, like Jack Lemmon and James Gardner. Matter of fact, just recently I was watching The Apartment with Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine, a classic movie.
She's one of my favorites as well.
Yes, and you really got to see what a great actor he was. And he was so humble. You know, a lot of the newer stars need bodyguards and entourages, and to see someone on the level of a legend just walking around and saying hello was very impressive.
Huh. So did you get to meet any of your favorite actors as well, face to face?
Yes, Robert De Niro. Actually, Robert De Niro was he was a friendly and impressive guy, because I always felt that when you ask a movie star for a photo, most of them would say yes because of the uniform. But when they went that extra sentence or that extra 2 sentences, it gave you more of a feeling of that they're likable or that they liked you. You know, and Robert De Niro walked over to a group of us one day and were patting us on the back and said, "I want you guys to always wear your vest. Don't go out in the street without wearing your vest."
Especially in New York, right?
And that was very impressive. And another time, and I wasn't a big autograph hound, because to me, I was nervous just getting the pictures.
Right.
But De Niro was De Niro. And I had a photograph of him as when he played Don Corleone in The Godfather Part 2. And he was filming A Bronx Tale, and I wanted to get it signed. And I followed him to his car, but he had a bodyguard. And the bodyguard jumped in front of me and said, no, officer, you can't bother him today. He's very busy. And and obviously he heard that, and he turned around and stopped his bodyguard and said, no, I'll sign the photograph for the officer. That was very impressive.
Yeah.
Al Pacino, one of my all-time favorites, not that he was disappointing. He is, and I'm sure you've read many times, he has a strange persona.
Yes, he does.
He never looks anyone in the eye. He could see you 1,000 times and not say hello. He basically walks with his head down.
Interesting.
And so you have to kind of catch him. He's a little stranger than De Niro is.
Yeah, he's a little bit more estranged from the public in a way.
Right, exactly. It's almost like he's afraid of the public, or, but yet he signed an autograph and took a photo, so that was nice of him too.
Very cool. So watching these films being put together on the streets and patrolling, to watch them back on television or the big screen, is it weird? Like, what is it like to be like, I was there, and now I'm seeing it all put together on television?
Right. It's actually annoying, believe it or not, because, like Ghost, for instance, at the time, my girlfriend, who became my wife, I was, and I don't like to talk during movies, but I was like, I was there. You see behind that camera, I was standing there. And, you know, and basically, you could see every scene that you were at, and it almost takes away from it. Because if you see a scene that looks exciting, but when you're actually seeing it being filmed and it's not that exciting, it takes away from watching it on camera. There's a scene in Ghost where he fights with the actual ghost. I don't know if you remember the movie.
I do remember the movie.
And
it's
it
one
was
of my
in a
favorites,
very bad neighborhood in Bedford-Stuyvesant. And as a matter of fact, Patrick Swayze that night walked off the set because all the people in the neighborhood were annoying him. They were heckling him.
So now we got the inside scoop to
they were heckling him, and I guess he couldn't get into his method, and he walked off. And the production people asked us if we could quiet down the neighborhood, and we said, "You're lucky you're filming in this neighborhood without them just heckling you." It's a very bad neighborhood. Anyway, in this scene, he fights with the ghost, but in real life, in the filming, he's punching into thin air, and that's what got the neighbors That's what got the neighborhood heckling, because they're like, what's he swinging at?
Yeah.
So when you see it on
I'm picturing
film,
it in my head now as you're explaining it. I
when
can
you
see
see
that
it on film, the ghost is in front of him and he's hitting the ghost.
through the magic of television.
Through the
there's
magic
somebody
of
there.
television. But when you're watching it being filmed, it looks a little ridiculous, you know. And so things like that would take away from the film a little bit.
Yeah, because you see how it's put together. There's another show that I work on through Channel 118, and we did the Macabre Film Festival several weeks ago, and it's a horror film festival. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but there was a zombie makeup artist there, and he showed you how he made the makeup, like the zombie bites and things. So it's like, okay, then later on that night we watched like Dawn of the Dead or some kind of
And
zombie
it took
movie.
away from it.
It took away from it, yeah. But it's kind of cool all in one aspect to be like, to see a scary movie like that, it's not so scary anymore, you know, because it does take away from that. It takes
Especially
that edge
a
off.
horror film, yes. Or even a dramatic film.
Yeah.
Or I remember what Scent of a Woman, I was actually standing right behind the camera when they were doing the ballroom scene. And the actress is now on the show, Byrne, I forgot her name. But they did so many cuts and so many takes that when you're watching it, you know, but then when you see it on film, it looks like it just flows so beautifully. And but it's still wonderful to see the there's a lot of work that goes into filmmaking.
There really is. I mean, just doing this little talk show, I've learned a lot.
and the hours are tremendous.
Yeah,
I mean,
can imagine.
these people work. I mean, the police have a shift cut off, so we could work 8 hours and somebody will relieve us.
But they'll be out there 10, 12, 14.
And the production, the lower on the rung work the hardest, like anything else. And the production assistants could be out there all night in the cold, in the heat, parking cars, and it's quite a...
and the city is cold in the winter and drastically hot in the summer.
Drastically hot in the summer and very cold in the winter.
Wow.
Yes.
So what made you move out to the island here?
For
a little bit warmer weather in the winter?
No, I actually... I got married, and my wife was from the island, and we wanted to raise our children on Long Island. But I'm a city boy.
Yeah, city boy at heart.
City boy at heart. Most movies are filmed in New York City because the landscape is the set itself.
Yeah.
I mean, places like Gramercy Park are just... Woody Allen loves to film in Gramercy Park. Just the vine, the buildings with the vines. They're just gorgeous sets. You can go to Brooklyn. Brooklyn, Manhattan are mostly the main two boroughs where they film movies and television shows.
And they have great pizza out there, too.
They have great pizza, and they have...
I'm a big fan of food, so
yeah,
I know where all the great places to eat are.
As am I. But they catered their own food, which we used to indulge in. And they, I'm sure that you know craft service tables because all studios have them.
Yeah.
And so in that unit, I must have gained at least 15 pounds in 3 years because there's always a table after they serve the breakfast. There's always still bagels and chips and candy. Then the truck comes out and they serve the lunch. And then the table stays with the candies and the chips, and then the dinner comes out if you're there long enough. So they supply plenty of the food.
Very interesting what goes on behind movie sets.
Yeah,
interesting.
It really is very interesting. I could rattle off 1,000 stories. That's you know that's the beauty of remembering all these things.
Yeah.
And if they can't, it's run by a lot of unions, the film industry. So they have to have a certain amount of hours. Even if the celebrity doesn't use the limousine, doesn't use the service that the Teamsters drive them to the set, the movie company still has to pay the Teamster for the car. So. So they, you know, so it's all based around unions that almost chased the movie industry out of the city at one time. Wow. Because we had the great director Sidney Lumet in our car once, and he was filming A Stranger Among Us with Melanie Griffith.
Yes, I remember.
And he was telling we were doing location scouting, and he was telling us that the city was driving him mad because all his movies are filmed in New York.
Yeah.
And, you know, and he was thinking of taking then his following picture out because the unions were costing a lot of money. But real quick, I wanted to say how they have to take up a day, even if it's something is only a 5-minute spot. Or
Yes.
do you remember that old commercial, There Goes the Eyewitness News Van?
Yes.
I'll never forget this.
Can you imagine how long that took to make? You
Now,
probably know.
Now that's not even a 30-second spot
Not
on
even.
TV. I backed up that Eyewitness Newsman, I'll never forget it, 59 times to get the take right. And so it's things like that goes into it, and but it's very interesting.
I would say so, yeah, just listening to it. Like, as you're talking about this stuff, I'm picturing in my head, and it is very interesting the way it's all put together, because I myself have obviously interested in film and television industry.
Yes, and you have a great studio.
Thank you. And it's just fascinating to sit and listen to the stories. So I got to ask you, what inspired you to write the Coparazzi?
Well, it was kind of cathartic in a way. There's two reasons. I took notes while I was in the unit, which a lot of people didn't know. I'd write little notes, put them in my pocket.
Did you plan on writing a book, or you would just...
I planned on writing originally a coffee table book with just the photos, and then underneath, saw Al Pacino today. He was filming Godfather 3. But then I had so many more stories, like in that particular film where one day he just took off and his bodyguard and everyone was wondering. He actually was sprinting down the block.
Wow.
Because he forgot to give the cab driver an autograph he promised him.
Oh my gosh.
So
he really seems like a nice guy.
So
in
there
real
were
life.
stories like that, and I said, the picture book doesn't have to be the picture book because, like I said, the cathartic thing about it was I was so obsessed with movies that it became more the things I could have did in the unit that I didn't, the opportunities I really had. If you read the book, you'll learn that it wasn't as satisfying to me because being such an obsessed fan, I didn't have the nerve, even though I was a man in uniform, I didn't have the nerve to really take advantage, to really, you know, try to ingratiate myself into the industry.
Right.
So that's what a lot of the book is about, as opposed to just a picture book, and I saw them today. It's about my own personal obsession. And so I had to kind of purge that because it was in my mind all those years, all those notes, and I just said, I'm going to write it, I'm going to get it out there, and I'm going to get it done with. But I also thought combining the police world with the movie world was kind of a universal subject. So I thought it would be entertaining because a lot of people either love cops or don't, and a lot of people either love movies or don't.
Right.
So it was a chance to show people that I took two of the greatest, in my eyes, two of the greatest shows on earth, being a policeman.
Two of the hardest things on earth.
And the hardest thing. And just try to tell an entertaining story.
Huh. Well, entertaining it definitely is, especially the people that you've met and all the behind the scenes that you've probably seen and is in your book. And it's interesting how you wrote it because you don't have chapters, you have scenes.
Yes, I thought that would be interesting.
That is interesting.
And it's in chronological order. So, matter of fact, I had friends ask me who never even knew I wrote the book. I'm a secret writer, like a closet writer, because like any other artist, the confidence isn't there. So I didn't even tell close friends I was writing the book. So when they actually read it, they couldn't believe it. And they were like, when did you take all these notes? And how, you know, but that's what I did, you know. Same thing with the acting. When I was young, I didn't tell people I wanted to be an actor. I snuck off to acting school.
Wow.
And did those kinds of things. But I do urge anyone that's into the arts, I really, really do. I mean, I got a chance to write this book and experience these things, but I really, if you're really passionate about the arts, like I would encourage my children to do anything they wanted to do.
Exactly.
Whereas I didn't have that encouragement.
Excellent. So I want to ask you your first book that you've written.
Actually, this is the second book I've written. The first book I never tried to publish. It was sitting in my drawer, you know, the old manuscript in the drawer with dust covering it. I thought that particular story was too police, whereas it was just a police book. So I put it away.
So is that what you enjoy writing more of? Is your experience as a police officer?
Well, the first book is a work of fiction. They say write what you know. So I know about the police world, and and I know about the entertainment world. But I thought that was one particular genre, as opposed to this being a combination of two: pop culture and police. So I put that one away, and I went back to this one, and hopefully I'll go back to the other one.
Yeah. Is writing something you find that you're enjoying now, and being that you have the Coparazzi out and it's doing so well?
It's enjoyable, but it's very, very, it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. As an entertainment personality, you can imagine, it's more difficult than I imagine, and the editing and the rewrites are so daunting.
Yes.
And the and today it's not like the old days of publishing, and a lot of writers, especially independent authors, have to do their own marketing and their own research and their own everything, basically.
Right.
And so it becomes like a full-time job, which is fine, but it's a personal thing. When you finish the product, it's kind of more personal than acting, because acting, someone else is writing your scenes. When you write a book, if it's not accepted, it's more personal.
Did you ever think in your wildest dreams that you were going to be a writer? I mean, first you wanted to be an actor, then you went to be a police officer, and then 2013 you are a published author.
I did write short stories and actually poetry when I was young. But again, just for myself. I'd come home at night, not every night, and then I just would put it in the drawer. Never thought I had the moxie to do it.
Yeah.
Acting was a bigger dream, because I grew up on old films. My dad grew me up on the old Warner Brothers and MGM films, and would wake me up late at night because he knew I wanted to watch them. Back then, of course, there was no cable. And so whenever George Raft or James Cagney or Humphrey Bogart or Abbott and Costello were on, I would ask my dad to wake me up so I could see the movies.
Excellent. So in writing this book, did you ever run into writer's block? That's a big thing for writers. The authors that I know, everybody has run into it. What about you? I mean, even though you have your notes and everything is so fresh in your mind.
I don't know if I would call it writer's block. I call it fear. Because I was that first step to write, and I write longhand first. That first step to writing is it going to be good or is it going to be garbage? So there's a fear.
Yeah.
But writer's block, I believe, is that you just can't get anything in your head for the day, which doesn't happen to a lot of writers. But like I said, mine is more getting there,
right.
Getting to the table.
Because you have in your head what you want to write about. You've been through all this. The memories are in your mind. So do you find that it's hard to take what's in your head and put it onto paper? Do you have moments like that?
Yes. And what every writer will also tell you is that if you have a thought in your head, which I made a big mistake in not doing, write it down. But as a person, you think you'll never forget it, but you do.
But you do.
A few hours later, you forget it.
You do. I do that myself. Actually, I have a pad in the car, in my desk, at home, everywhere there's pads, because you never know what's going to come to your mind. So what was it like to get the finished product into your hand? The Coparazzi is now published.
It was, again, frightening.
Even to have the finished product, that it's a done deal, it's out there, people can purchase it.
Well, it's frightening because the acceptance, and because no one knew. So it was like, guess what, world? And I lived in two worlds, so, you know, I had neighborhood friends, police friends,
Right.
and, you know, so guess what, world? And now it was on there. So, but Facebook was a big help because I didn't have to call people up and tell them. Just one day I put it out there. My book is out. My book is out today, and everybody, what? You wrote a book, and inboxes and outboxes, and but it was very exciting at the same time because I believe if I didn't do it, I would have regretted it.
Yeah.
So I just, for better or worse,
it's
wanted
definitely
to
a
do it.
very interesting book for anybody who's like yourself. a big film fan and interested in what goes on behind the scenes, because that's basically what it's about, and about the motion picture company.
Right.
So it's just amazing. What do you think you might, do you want to publish more books in the future? I know you mentioned a couple of things that you have in your manuscript drawer.
I do want to publish more books in the future, but I'm going to take, I guess I'm going to take more time in the process, because, that's why I don't understand how people could rifle out books like, I guess they have ghostwriters or 10 writers working on one book.
Yeah.
But it's very daunting task. But yes, I do want to. I actually have 2 in mind, and if that be it, so to speak, then that be it.
Wow. So what do you use to write down your manuscripts? Are you pencil and paper, typewriter, computer?
I use the yellow pads. I don't use pencil for some reason, because the erasing, I just cross out. I usually use a black ink, because it's funny how you get used to certain inks. The police department did not allow blue ink. All the reports we did, we had to write in black ink.
Meanwhile, they were known as the blue.
Meanwhile, they were, years ago when I first started, then they changed the rule. Only black ink. So I write black ink on yellow pad, and then when I get maybe 10 pages, I'll start the computer, putting it into the computer.
It's just interesting, because other authors that have been on my show, they have so many different ways of writing. One uses a 1946 Olympia typewriter.
Wow, I could never type.
Yeah. And then, of course, some use a laptop, some have the regular tower computer. So it's always interesting to me how people put their books together, because it does sound so complicated, and everything that goes with it, and organizing thoughts. I mean, it overwhelms me just thinking about it.
Yeah, it is overwhelming, and then you got to go back and check the sentence, and but the computer is a very helpful thing. It's not a guarantee, but the spell checks, and at least with the typewriters, you had to do the whiteouts, and
yeah,
I don't know how those old writers did that, banged out manuscripts.
It's definitely
on those
interesting.
old typewriters. Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, Vincent, thanks so much for coming down today and
thank
discussing
you,
your book
and
with us.
I so appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Very great book.
Thanks
so much,
Jason.
If you'd like to get in touch with Vincent, visit his website at www.vincentcasale.com, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. If you're going to be in the Riverhead area and would like to be part of our live studio audience, all you have to do is write for tickets. Please include your name, address, and daytime phone number. Email us at thejasonshow@yahoo.com. Special thank you to Vincent Casale for being our guest today. For more information, including how you can purchase the Coparazzi, visit his website at www.vincentcasale.com or www.thecoparazzi.com. Thank you for watching. See you next time.